Hi guys, this is Scribbly again with another pen review, and today we are going to have a look at the Pelikan M120 Iconic Blue, which is a cigar-shaped pen that is sort of retro looking, which is not by chance, because the M120 is a recreation of I think it was a school pen, the Pelikan 120 from the 1950s. So that pen sort of looks very reminiscent of that 120 Pelikan 120 1950s fountain pen. I got that pen here sent from appelboompennen.com in Laren in the Netherlands for review. Thank you very much for sending me that pen for review. Before we have a look at the pen, let's have a look at the packaging. The pen comes in this typical white Pelikan cardboard box saying Geschenkset, which means gift set or present set, rather gift set probably, M120 Iconic Blue, and then F for fine, because I got the pen in a fine nib. And when we open the box, we get a very, very beautiful, rather large outer or inner, so to speak, cardboard box in blue, because of course the pen is also blue. Now that pen came out in 2016 in another color. The color in 2016 was green black. That green black pen back then had also a special gift box that was quite a bit larger. So that one here is a little bit smaller, says Pelikan, Günther Wagner, Hannover und Wien, with that old Pelikan logo on here with like the 4 chicks. It then got, I think, over time decreased to 2 chicks. Now it's 1 chick, but that, as said, is the old Pelikan logo. The box then opens up with a magnetic closure flap here. Very beautiful old school retro artwork in here. I do really appreciate that. Could always almost like frame that and hang it on the wall, or like would make a nice postcard as well, right? We then have the Pelikan booklet, which is then of course the normal or regular booklet that the pen comes with, as the pens normally come with. As said, I got this one here from Appelboom in the Netherlands for review, and the pen then does the rest in here like that. And the pen does also come with a vintage retro looking Pelikan Tinte, Pelikan fountain pen ink, which here in that case is the 4001 Königsblau, which is royal blue, a 30 milliliter ink bottle that does of course in color match the pen. The whole package, let's talk about the price for a second before we dive into the pen. The whole package isn't exactly ridiculously cheap. The pen costs 160 euro from Appelboompennen. It's not over the top expensive, but I have a M200 here, just to do a size comparison in a bit. That here's the Smoky Quartz, was also special edition. I think last year also came with a bottle of ink. It was even the Edelstein Smoky Quartz, even a 50 milliliter bottle of ink, and it was just 125 euro. So there's even around 40 euro in between those two pens, and that one was also not exactly cheap, but still all right, given that you get the regular M100 for a little bit shy of 100 euro. Enough of the price comparisons and all that. It's just to say it's not exactly an inexpensive pen. It's not totally over the top, but well, I think if it would be 25 euros less expensive, it would be a really convenient pricing. Anyway, we do have the pen here, the M120 Iconic Blue, which is a very beautiful blue. It's like a lighter blue. I don't know if you can really see it very well in this lighting here, but it is definitely a vintage looking blue. So I think Pelikan did an excellent job with the color of that pen. They really nailed that. The pen itself is as the 120 was, that school fountain pen, is a cigar-shaped fountain pen. There were more cigar-shaped Pelikans back then. The the 140, for example, as well. As said, cigar shaped, round finial here, of course, in which you have the Pelikan logo here engraved. It's a little bit hard to see, and that's something that I do also find a wee bit of a pity. I don't know if they could have made that engraving a little bit deeper or whatever, but it would have then probably been a bit more apparent. You could have seen the Pelikan logo. It's the Pelikan with one chick, I guess. Yes, I can only see one chick on here. So had they made that slightly different, it would have probably been a little bit more apparent. Of course, I think they wanted it that muted because it sort of like really blends into the dome of the cap here, into that finial, makes it maybe even more vintage looking. I don't know, just wanted to point that out to you. Then we have, of course, the fabulous Pelican Clip, that bill-shaped clip that does not look different from the modern clips on the M200 here, for instance. That's pretty much exactly the same, as is that gold center band. By the way, all the accents here are in 14 karat gold plated. Says Pelican Germany. And then, yeah, we just have that beautiful blue barrel and a small step down here that is not sharp at all, just also looks cool and vintagey. And of course here we do have the piston turning knob. The pen then unscrews with less than a full turn. I think it's just 3/4 of a turn. I really appreciate that on Pelikan pens because it makes it a super fast note taker. And that is just a really smooth thing here, like really smooth operation. Feels really nice. We do have a inner cap that you can't exactly see right here in the lighting conditions, but believe me, it's there. Of course, in order to prevent the nib from drying out, and I do think that it does an excellent job in doing so, I never picked that pen up and it wouldn't write. Never happened. We have a wonderful blue ink window, really melts in with the body. It's a slightly different blue, but it does really melt in with the barrel here. And it's a larger ink window, so you can nice and conveniently see how much ink you do have left in the pen. I have that pen here inked with diamine blue black because I thought it's also a nice match for the pen. We have threads here that are not sharp, not in my opinion. You can sort of feel them, but they're not really sharp. They're basically exactly the same as the threads on an M200 because the whole section is essentially the same. This front part of the section is quite sharp. That's the same on the M200s. They are more rounded off on the Sovereign fountain pens, on the 400s and so on. They're always a bit sharp on the 200s, and it's also quite sharp here on the M120. But of course, if you don't hold your pen down here, you will probably not feel that. The pen overall is a slightly smaller pen in size, just as is the M200, because they're similar in size, and you'll see that in a minute in the size comparison. But to me, it's still a quite comfortable pen in hand. You can, of course, post the pen. The cap does post quite deep down the barrel, which adds some length to the pen, doesn't make it unwieldy, still a very balanced pen, doesn't make it oversized or something like that, just adds a little bit extra weight and extra length. In case you like that, the pen can very, very well be written posted as well as unposted. The section, of course, is also like, since it's a section as on the M200, on the slightly thinner side. So if you really like beefy, chunky pens, such as the M800 upwards, this pen will be, of course, too slim for you. But if you're okay with pens such as the M200, M400, and so on, you'll like that pen here as well, because it's essentially the same section. We then have a beautiful adorned nib here, the Pelikan logo. That's the modern Pelikan logo as far as I'm informed. We can compare that to that M200 here. No, it does. I mean, it's essentially the same logo, but it looks slightly different, as you can see here. The F for fine engraving also does look slightly different, more a serif font than on the modern nibs, so to speak. And then, of course, we also do have some kind of a vintagey adornment scroll work stuff here on the nib. which I do think looks really beautiful. Writing experience wise, I gotta say that nib here on the M120 is quite a bit more springy than the other modern nibs here. And that's something that you can actually really feel. It's of course not a flex nib by no means, but it does have a good amount of spring to it, and it's really considerably softer than these more modern nibs here. I mean, like, that is also a modern nib, of course, but like the not retro nibs. Yeah, let's do a size comparison here, and let's do a size comparison first of all to a M200, and you see that the M200 capped is just a bit shorter than the M120 here. Uncapped, they're basically about the same length, and posted. The M120 now, again, is a tad longer, and just in case you're interested in that, here is a size comparison to a M600 fountain pen, uncapped. The M600 is a little bit longer, capped or posted, about the same in length, uncapped. Yeah, they're about the same in length, capped. The M120 is just a little bit shorter. And last but not least, of course, the mandatory size comparison to my standard size reference pen Lamy Safari, which is quite a bit longer, capped, uncapped. That's what it looks like. And let's post them. I would of course normally not post the Lamy Safari, but for the sake of the size comparison being all complete, let's do that. That's how it looks like. Last but not least, let's jump into a writing sample. Zoom in a little bit for that. As said, that nib here is really fabulous. Has a little bit of feedback to it. Didn't really dry in now. And you already see the springiness of the nib, right? Just when I do like that, you already see that you get a little bit line variation here. Let's see if we can zoom in a little bit more. All right, and here we go with the Pelikan. The nib also does have a slight architect character to it, if you ask me. It should be a rounded nib tip, of course, but it is slightly architect-y. Just a tad, just a wee bit. It's of course the iconic blue. This really is a fabulous pen to write with. I like those nibs better than those nibs here for some reason. Those are a little bit more stiffy. That here is more springy. You see the bit of line variation that you get here. This is no pressure. This is just a slight amount of pressure, and you really see, without pressing the pen all too much, we really do get a good amount of line variation out of that pen without really stressing the nib. Wetness wise, as most Pelikan pens, the pen is on the slightly wetter side. Diamine Blue Black is quite a dry ink. This here is quite absorbent paper, so you don't see a lot of the wetness here. But it is a pen that is slightly on the wetter side. Definitely not a dry pen. Writes really smooth, just with that tad bit of feedback that lets you know that you're actually writing. Super pleasant writing experience, in my opinion. That was that with the review. Oops, let's zoom out here again. Yep, with the review of that M120 iconic blue. Thanks a lot again to Appelboom Pennen for sending me that pen for review, and I'll see you at the next review. Bye bye.